Okay, Miller Computer Science 20 students, we're moving on to lesson 13, loops today. Okay, loops should be somewhat familiar from what we learned about them in Scratch. As always, when you go through this lesson, I want you to create a program that has exactly identical code to what you're seeing in the program. Okay, and then you'll submit that into Repellent, and that's what helps me know that you've gone through the lesson. Okay, let's jump right in. So just like in Scratch, when we had a loop, we would bring the block over and then we would insert the parameter of that loop. So we'd say how many times we want the loop to continue, and then we could put other blocks underneath it, and everything inside that loop block would occur the number of times we wanted it to occur. Okay, so if we break down this line right here, our computer comes through and reads our program. When it sees the keyword for, it knows, okay, this is a loop. I'm going to have to loop back up to this a number of times. Okay, that's what for does. It tells the computer you're going to have to loop. The X here is the variable where we're going to store data throughout our loop. So each iteration, the value stored inside that X variable is going to change. In range is saying here's your start point and here's your end point. Okay, and that's what we have inside these brackets. So this loop right here it's saying that I want you to start at the number 0, and I want you to loop until the value of X is 10. Once the value of X is 10, it's going to terminate. So the first time the computer runs this loop, it gets to the line 4, it looks at what the value of X is. Now, because we assign the starting point at 0, 0 is put into X. Then it sees the colon, goes down to anything that's indented on this line is going to be part of the loop. Okay, so if you have multiple commands indented underneath that colon, all of those are going to be considered a part of the loop. Okay, it starts getting really confusing when you start nesting loops inside of loops. All right, but for now, this is a simple one. The value of X is 0. The computer prints X. Because we use the keyword for, it comes back up to the line. The value of X is now 1. Okay, it goes down, it prints 1, comes back up again. The value of X is now 2, and it prints 2, and so on and so on and so on. Now let's actually look at this. The first thing I'm going to do is comment out the stuff I don't need right now. Okay, so I have my loop right here. Same loop that I just showed in the lesson. Okay, and when I run this, it prints out 0 all the way to 9. This is called the termination pointer. This is the end point of the loop. So as this continues to loop and the value of X keeps changing, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the computer is looking for a condition. Is the value of X 10? If the value of X is not 10, it runs another iteration. Okay, once this iteration has run all the way through its course to 9, so it prints 9, comes back up here, the value of X is now 10, it terminates the loop. Okay, so it breaks the loop and it moves on to line 4. It doesn't run it one last time. The instant that that variable is 10, the loop doesn't run anymore. Okay, so if I wanted to get it to print 1 to 10 instead of 0 to 9, my start point would have to be 1, and I'd need that loop to iterate until it's printed the number 10, which means I'm going to have to assign the termination point as 11. So when I run that, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, exactly what I was looking for. Okay, let's head back to the lesson. I believe all of this stuff right here is exactly what I just talked about. Now, if you wanted to increase by increments, there can be a third spot inside your brackets, and that third spot can say how much it wants you to increase those increments by. So here I don't have anything. Okay, so if I add a 2, the iteration is going to go up by 2. So instead of X being 1 and then 2 and then 3, it's going to go up by 2 each time. So you're going to see when I run it now, it runs 1, then 3, then 5, then 7, then 9. The next iteration, if X was 9, the next iteration is going to go up by 2, which would make it 11. 11 is the termination point. It breaks you out of the loop. Okay, and it moves on to line 4. You can do that with strings as well, although it makes it a lot more confusing. So now decreasing increments. You can also reverse the loop, but by putting the higher number second and use a -1 for the increment. So you can change line 2 to look like this. Instead of our start point being the lower number, we can put our start point as the higher number. So the start point is 10. When the value of x is 0, terminate it and go down by -1 each time. So we switch this to 10 as our start point. When the value hits 0, we want it to terminate, and we want it to go down by -1. Okay, so I run that. Starts at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It doesn't display 0 because 0 was the termination point. Okay. Loops and strings. Now, we're going to create a title. And the one I'm using is obviously Star Wars. And I'm going to have the space in there as well. So I create this title called Star Wars. Okay, and if you think back to a previous lesson, you could probably get how to print out just the first letter of our string. Okay, and that's by using the command print title 0. Okay, so 0 is our index spot of the first letter in that string. So I'm just going to take that loop out up there, and I'm going to put this one in here. Okay, so now when I run this one, all we get is an S. So we have a title called Star Wars. We use the function title so we use the index to print the first letter of that string, because spot 0 is the first letter. Okay, so that's why it just prints that. I don't want that anymore, so I'm going to comment it out. Now, if we want to actually print this string with one letter or one character on each line, this is how we would do it. For index in range 0, len title, and then inside of our loop we say print title index. Now, I have stay calm down here. There seems to be a lot going on, but it's relatively simple. Okay, it doesn't change what's happening. The loop has a start point, it has a termination point, and it has something that it's supposed to carry out within the loop. Okay, so for is our keyword, index is our variable that's going to store a different value each time the loop iterates. Okay, and our range is start at index point 0 and end at the length of the title. Okay, so len title is whatever the last index point of that string is, that's when I want you to end. Okay, so that's the last one that we're going to print. Then I print title index. Okay, that creates a loop that is going to print out each character on its own line. Okay, each letter individually printed on its own line. When you use the function len, it knows that you're trying to print the entire string, so it doesn't terminate when the value of index is s. It terminates when the entire length of the variable has been printed. Okay, so as long as the entire thing has worked its way through, then it'll print through it. Okay, that's explaining that. Now, and also you could go up in increments. This is what I was talking about before. You could throw a 2 in there and go up by increments of 2, so it would skip every other letter. But why? I don't know why you would ever do that with a string. Doesn't really make sense, but that's how you would do it. Now, printing the strings in reverse order. There's 3 different things that happen here, and you get errors or you don't get it to print correctly if you don't do it exactly right. So in order to print our variable backwards, the most obvious thing to do would be to put len title first, then put the termination point at 0, and then use a -1 as the increment. But you actually get a string out of range, the index out of range when you do that. Okay, and that's because you have to account for that annoying +1. Because we're going backwards, this becomes a -1. So here's the corrected code. So you'd say for index in range, len title -1 is your first spot. Okay, that's where it's going to start from. All right, the termination point of 0, and then a -1 for the increment. Now that prints us out. Okay, so if I say len title is my start point, I want you to terminate at 0 and your increment is -1. When I run that, I get it going backwards, but now the issue that we had before where it didn't print that last letter because the termination point of this loop is when the value of index is the last letter, is the first letter in the variable, okay, in the string. So it doesn't print that last one. Remember I said that if you use len title, it knows that you want to print the entire thing. So in order to actually print that very last one, which is the first one because we're doing it backwards, your end point, your termination point has to be a -1. Okay, so then when we run that, we get srar rats, okay, which is Star Wars backwards. Okay, again, I don't know why you'd be printing strings backwards, but that's how you would do it if you wanted to. Okay, now this is an easy way of doing this. You'll find that's what coding is you do something one way for a really long time and then you realized, wait, there's a way simpler way to do this. Okay, I had to show you how to do it that way so that you understand how the actual process of the loop works. This page right here is the easy way to print out a string, each letter on a different line. For letter in title, print letter. Way you go. Okay, it works. You don't have to include this in your sample lesson or program that you're creating. All right, while loops. A while loop runs alongside the rest of your program. So they start at a specific time and they continue to run until that condition is no longer true. So in this situation here, I'm just saying while true, print enough barren. There is no time, there's no termination given in this loop. Okay? There's no time that this true is going to become a false. Okay? You could a different example is while player A equals 1, print enough barren, and then have some other piece of code that changes the value of player A, and when player A gets to a specific point, then it terminates. What I have here is called an infinite loop. Computers don't like infinite loops, and I'm going to run mine. Sometimes my computer freezes, sometimes it doesn't, so it's a little bit dangerous, but I've had some good luck lately. So you can see right here I've got while true, print enough barren. Well, there's no time that this true is going to become a false. If this true never becomes a false, then it stays running forever. Okay, so I'm going to run it. Hopefully my video doesn't terminate, but let's see. Okay, there we go. It's just running. You can see it down here at the bottom. Maybe you can't. But it's just continuing to run barren. Enough barren, enough barren, enough barren. Okay, so I stop it, clear. But that's a while statement. You can use those as kind of termination points for games. So like in the rock, paper, scissors lesson, you could have a while statement at the top and have a loop running that changes a variable, and once the rock, paper, scissors game has been played 5 times, it terminates. Okay, that's an example of where you can use a while loop. All right, that gets us to the end of lesson 13. As always, let me know if you have questions. Contact me, email, whatever way you can, get a hold of me, ask questions. I can meet with you individually and walk you through some of the stuff if you're still struggling, whatever you need. Okay, have a great day. Talk to you later.